Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
This is the GSMC Football Podcast on GSMC Podcast Network. Like every Tuesday, I am their host. Alongside with me is Brice Lewis. I am Ethan Orfe. Brice, how you doing, man? What's going on?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like a normal SpongeBob right now, man. Just trying to get through it and be normal.
What a reference. Think anybody knows what you're talking about?
Oh, of course. Many people know what I'm talking about. It's a very popular reference, I would think, just because like either you got kids and that's how you know it, or you watched it yourself.
Yeah, fair enough. We're at that age to where, folks from all ages know these SpongeBob references, especially since meme culture is so strong.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's
probably popped up on somebody's timeline.
There's a new SpongeBob meme every month, so
every day. Pages. Subreddits dedicated.
Exactly, just the new memes.
Right. But let's get right into it, shall we? Have a good decent amount to talk about today. But we should probably talk about the most pressing matter at hand, which is XFL Week 2. What happened, Brice?
So I will say that Week 2, especially Saturday, the games were not as, I guess you could say, as exciting, you could say, just from an offensive perspective. But the games were still good. Overall this week, I think it did its job. Obviously, the Seattle game was really cool, seeing that they had over 30,000 people.
Yeah.
At the stadium where the Seattle Seahawks play, and they had Seattle Seahawks players there who were, clearly watching the game, and it shows that, okay, there's a following here, especially if it's a city that loves the sport. You can definitely get you a following that really sticks around. And I think that's what you kind of want to see for the longevity of the future. Because if the fans are willing to come out and support, that's revenue, and it shows that you can sustain this team in this area. You know what I'm saying? That's
for sure. Especially seeing the DC Defenders, their fans come out. They came out the first game for sure. Or people came to support that, and then they came out again because they had 2 home games back to back. And then the Seattle game was really interesting just to see the 12th man stadium. It wasn't filled up, of course, but it was full for what you'd think it would be.
30,000 is not bad.
No, that's really good.
Yeah, it's just like we're so spoiled by, obviously the Seattle Seahawks having a full house every week.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you forget, 30,000 is still a good number. Like the XFL has gotten good numbers.
Right. And then that was an exciting game. I was immediately I was watching it, and then I was like, let me watch this so I have something to do before, All-Star Weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was ready for the dunk contest or 3-point stuff and all that. Man.
I'll have to talk about my basketball podcast, how Mr. Grant got robbed. But that'll come for that.
Oh my gosh. I don't even want to, I can't get into that right now. I've never seen a dunk so good. Just be wasted. That 360 that he caught.
Yes, bro.
One hand. Unreal. Anyway, that Seattle game was really cool to watch because it came down to the wire.
Yeah, and it really picked up in the second half too.
And it felt like a really, really big time. It felt like a big moment.
Yeah. What's something? I've had this impression. I feel like any games that have been on ABC and ESPN feel like just normal games, but the Fox games feel bigger.
Yeah, I don't know why that is.
ESPN just feels like it's a normal college football, 12 o'clock, 3:30 game. Just okay, it's a game. But Fox, it feels like, this is a big game. Like this game is like, you need to watch this.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just maybe Fox is better at presenting it than ESPN. and that's why it comes off that way. But yes, I just had that feeling watching that Seattle game. This game felt bigger to me.
Well, I think it has to do with a lot of I guess not confirmation bias, but like comparison stuff that you already used to. So when you see something from ESPN or ABC affiliates, especially in these sort of, I guess it's professional, but at the same time, it's not elite top tier NFL stuff.
I mean, that's why they don't really even have outside of Monday Night Football and like one wild card game, they don't have any.
Everything else is usually college stuff that they do. Like ABC does college every now and again.
Like this, in college, it feels big on there. But even the college games, I feel like sometimes don't feel big until the primetime one.
You know.
So it's like, I don't know if it's just they put more production into that because that's the big marquee game. Maybe it's because it's later in the day and it's easier for a game to feel bigger at night than it does during the day.
Yeah, I think if we had like a marquee, like a 7:30, that'd be dope.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would be into that. Granted, though, it just doesn't seem like they want to make I just don't think their deals are there right now for that. Maybe in a few seasons they might be able to get some marquee games because nothing's really going on at 7:30 that you really care to watch right now, maybe except for basketball.
I mean, it's actually kind of funny, the scheduling, since it is earlier. I mean, obviously a lot of basketball games start at like at 7:30, so, and I think usually these games latestly start at 5, so it'll probably be over by 8, but it's still like, as soon as it's over, you still kind of got time to kind of like, if you were a basketball fan, it's okay to have basketball games on. Where if it was a football game at night, prime time, by the time you get off, unless you're watching the West Coast, you probably ain't got really many games that you're trying to watch necessarily, so I definitely think that, it was interesting. I also think Cardale Jones had another great performance this week. I think he played better than he played last week.
Really?
To me, I know it's not because they had more of a dominating win, but I do feel like he threw the ball better this week than he did last week, in my personal opinion.
All right.
And I mean, this man is still basically undefeated since college. So, we got to keep that up. That's a storyline. So, honestly, after this week, I still feel like the two top quarterbacks in this league to me are PJ Walker from the Houston Roughnecks up, and
so you're claiming them.
Oh yeah, because
the guy.
Yeah, I say I've been following PJ Walker since Temple. So when I saw he was on there, I was like, oh, that's you got to claim a team. So it's like, I'll just claim the Roughnecks. I like their name. At first I thought they were the Rednecks, but that was on me.
Oh no, can't do that one.
Yeah, so the Roughnecks, I claim them, but then also the DC Defenders, Cardale, because honestly, the best teams in this league have the best quarterbacks. If you think about it.
Well, that's the thing that I think we have to look at now is this league will go as far as the quarterbacks take them, and right now it seems like half the teams really have a quarterback that they can depend on. Mm-hmm. Like I think. St. Louis has found a good match with Tamo.
Yeah, Tamo. Yeah,
Tamo
from our Ole Miss.
Yeah, and then PJ Walker, of course, has really been somebody people have liked to look at.
Yeah, man, that man can throw it. He can throw it.
And then, of course, Landry was.
He did come back.
Landry Jones was cool. Because he was just throwing it down the field. He was slinging it.
Oh, I was like, okay, where was this in the NFL?
He was throwing it up and down. I mean, it was just like seeing like the arm strength talent was really cool.
But at least they're not, obviously, you have people on the opposite end of the spectrum, obviously, the Tampa Bay Vipers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can tell their quarterback situation is absolutely horrible. Aaron Murray don't look that good. I think Cornelius didn't look that good. Aaron Flowers didn't look that. I was like, wow, y'all really y'all flaked on the quarterback.
The Tampa Bay Vipers, they had 3 interceptions total for 2 different quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's not. And, it's not.
It was just not
great.
It wasn't a good display.
I mean, they had a chance to win. That was great, but at the same time, the quarterback play really has limited them a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of these teams with not the best quarterback play. They have to run the football, and even Seattle Silvers, he didn't do all that either. His passer rating was a 50. He had 39 completion percentage. So like, what can you really say about that kind of stuff? And he just
happened to play good when it mattered,
right?
Which was in the second half, made some plays, and the defense made some plays, and that's why they were able to pull off a victory. But
And it just wasn't. It was not good, especially like for, let's say, the New York Guardians. Like, I remember they were talking about in the broadcast about New York media. Let's see what they'll say about this, because his performance was not good.
Oh,
you could see it all over the sideline. Like, he
man.
just wasn't. He wasn't being, I guess, a leader as a quarterback should be looked upon to be at. He got benched. He was 8 for 19, 44 yards, 2 picks, had a 10.1 rating as a passer. I've never seen it.
This man said, we need to change this game plan. We need to change all this. This is the horrible game we've been a part of. I don't believe in anything we're calling. I'm just like, dang. The transparency, we love it, but dang. He really threw the coach and the offensive coordinator under the bus.
It's insane because I think last week he said that this was the most fun he's had playing in a very long time. It's just,
I'm like, Matt, listen, you ain't that big of a quarterback, man. You can't be saying stuff like that,
bro. He was having a full on. He was like,
that's why it was so. That's why the interviews are funny, because every time he threw a pick, so what happened? And then he wanted to say something. He's like, I just really would have trashed this man so bad, but I can't. I have to, at least in this position, be professional.
Right.
But when they had the mic on, when he was talking to the coach, you could tell he was just like, this isn't, I don't know what we're doing out here, man.
Right. You could just see they just were so not on the same page.
Yeah.
And like, I've never really seen that to this transparent before, like just to be seen through all different lenses of like a broadcast. Every time something horrible happened, they were panning to him. He's by himself. Nobody's talking to him. It's like nobody, I think they've lost the trust. The coach doesn't know what to do. It was interesting.
Yeah, that's why the halftime interview was also funny, because he was just like, yeah, we need to overhaul the entire offensive game plan. Just you got the coach. He was like, I don't know what he's talking about. He needs to play better. I was just like, well, I guess we'll have to see if he's the starter next week. I guess we'll have to see if they can bounce back.
Right.
So, but I'm sure they're going to try to figure it out as long as we don't get another firing like we got after the first week.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's take another break, or let's take our first break rather, and then we'll talk about week 3.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, so looking forward to week 3. What games are you looking at, Brice, as far as the most watchable games for your perspective, and what games you think actually are something that, might actually turn out to be better than what people think? Because I know for me, the Seattle Battlehawks and New York Guardians game is something that I would only watch because I like Seattle's team. I'm sorry, I keep saying Seattle. St. Louis, the Battlehawks. But, New York Guardians are looking like a dumpster fire of a team right now. And they're just now trying to reel back after, having some real up and down moments in the first 2 weeks. And
obviously everybody's going to want to tune in to see what happens with Mr. McGloin.
I don't even know if he's going to start. You can't. You think he's going to start?
I think he'll start, but it's just one of those things where it's like if he starts acting up again, I might have to make some changes.
You think it'd be sooner than how they pulled him out in the in the second half?
I mean, really, when they pulled it out, it was like in the last minutes of the fourth. So I think it's one of those things where it's just like, okay, we're just gonna play it out. I think they're gonna play him next week. This week, if it don't work out, then they'll just replace him and everything, and then we'll have our first player who wants to quit. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm requesting a trade. I'm like, yes, we're getting into the analytics of the XFL. We love it.
I'm dead.
But a game I want to see, man. DC Defenders in LA. Definitely a team I want to see play. I just like this is interesting what happens again with Cardell going against probably his stiffest competition to date. LA is a pretty good team. Obviously, bounce back, be able to get a W. I think that obviously, just any game that I feel like the games where the team is better, or most of the players, are the games people are going to end up watching because they know what to expect. I think a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that also, and then technically in terms of markets, this is a LA in there. It's going to be at LA, so it's going to be in the LA light. It's going to be fantastic. I mean, remember, what did they say? Didn't they say like last week that the XFL game kind of got more attendance than like the Chargers?
No way. Did it?
I want to say they said something like that's why it looked so bad because like nobody came to Charger games.
Yeah, I know.
So I mean, and they were like, "Dang, I think because XFL, I think they had like 17,000." And I think the stadium, and also the stadium they played in, the Chargers played in, wasn't that big. They didn't hold up to like 60,000 people. It was like a very small stadium.
You're talking about for LA, like before they moved?
For LA, like when they got to LA.
Oh, okay.
So, I think it'll be an exciting game to watch. I think both teams are going to put everything on the line and try to get that dub. Because like I said, I mean, only the top two teams from each conference can get in. So literally, you're basically kind of in playoff mode from week one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You only got, I'm assuming when they say a 10-game schedule that includes the 2 playoff games. So you only got 8 games that you can have to have a top 2 record, basically. Well, I mean, so really you could honestly sit here and say, if you get 3 losses, that might be it for you. And so if you're a team that's already 0-2 or 1-1, you got to kind of keep winning. Right now, DC and Houston are in the best position because they're undefeated right now. In my opinion.
I think that, I don't know. I think DC might be the best team only because they just seem to be the most well put together team. Like they don't seem to have they have a flaw, but it hasn't been exposed yet.
You see a flaw, you've seen it with your own eyes.
Yes, this Cardell Jones, he's the flaw.
What? Oh boy, not in the face of the league. That is a bold statement, sir, to say the face of the league is a flaw.
It's not that bold. He's literally every bad thing that people say about Cam Newton in one man.
All he does is win.
His accuracy problems are super bad. When Cardell is bad, it's not.
But at least he was bad when he did the start. There you go.
Now it's just on full display. He'll just throw a pass. Like he did a pass last weekend where it was essentially triple coverage and he had a guy underneath, but he elected not to go to the underneath route. Instead, he decided to throw it in triple coverage on the outside and he underthrew the pass first of all and he almost threw a pick. It's just not, he had so many of those. So we're like, he has all this arm strength talent, but he'll throw on his back foot or he'll throw the wrong shoulder or underthrow, and it's just the accuracy is just not there.
I mean, he completed. He completed more than 50%, and he had a 91.7 rating. So that's why I said realistically, in the long scheme of things, he made some plays out there, but he does have those accuracy issues. He's just someone that's like, as long as he continues to make plays with his arm, then you'll kind of overlook the issues. It's just if he was missing and then they weren't making plays, then it's just like, okay, yeah, man, you got to go.
Well, of course, but the defense is really the reason why DC is 2-0.
Oh yeah, the defense has had some excellent weeks.
They've scored a pick 6, I think, in both games.
Oh yeah, they have.
So,
and like I said, they really haven't gone against the best. From what I see, the best competition the XFL has to offer.
Seattle is
good.
Seattle has shown that they're pretty good.
Yeah, Seattle can play, but
they definitely did the New York. They caught New York on a real rough week. That's
why I'm interested to see what happens in the LA game. Because obviously I feel like that's going to be their toughest test up to date.
Yeah, LA's been able to get 17 in both weeks. And Josh Johnson was the first game start. I don't know did he play game 2? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
it's tough because he played in week 2. So
he did. Okay.
So you just kind of have to look at it from this perspective. Everything's still new, but you are building, I guess, a case for each team of why they're this and why they're not that. And right now, DC has the best case for why they should be the favorites, just because they've showcased to be able to be dominant on defense, which seems to be a big thing here so far, is that if your defense can be dominant, nothing really can touch you in this league, because nobody's offense is so strong to where they're reeling on defense. Like last week we got into the 30s. One team got into the 30s, right? And then this week no one got into the 30s, but we're getting to the high 20s.
Yeah, high 20s in most games. At least one team got into the high 20s.
Right. So I guess the only other team that really can maybe go up against them is Houston Roughnecks, which they don't play until
next week.
They play week 7.
Oh, really?
As in DC versus Houston.
That's the first time they actually meet.
Yeah.
Oh man, that should be a prime time Fox game.
It's FS1.
Whoa, whoa, FS1. Ooh, who cares?
No. It's a Sunday, 6 p.m. Special. So we'll just have to wait and see what exactly happens until that point. But I want to see that matchup. But then again, that's week 7. So a lot of things can change in 5 weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
We can see if Cardell Jones decides to keep exposing himself, or if other teams decide to, to figure things out, because even in others, like football, especially in the NFL, it takes a while for teams to adjust to stuff. And, they didn't have that long of a training camp. They had basically a mini camp for 3 weeks, and boom, now they're in pads and they're playing. So these guys have to build chemistry, do a whole bunch of other stuff that, they're not typically used to doing this fast and this short-handed. So you're just going to have to wait and see what it brings to the table. But
you got to watch out in terms of potential guys to go to the league. I heard that report that the Lions actually wanted to sign Josh Johnson, and the XFL blocked it. So,
we're already seeing some traction.
Oh, yeah. Also, I got to give a shout out to Cam Phillips, wide receiver for Houston Roughnecks. Had 3 touchdowns. He's going to the league. All right.
I don't know any wide receivers that really impressed me thus far. Has anybody on the skill position side really been like, oof, he might go to the league?
I mean, outside of Cam, and even though they've lost, they've lost 2 in a row. Who is the guy?
L.A.?
No, it's not L.A. I forgot who it was. Tampa Bay. They have a receiver who's played well both weeks. It's just the offense is anemic, so outside of him, it's kind of useless.
Yeah. They've scored the least amount of points.
Yeah.
In both weeks. That's actually, I lied. They scored the least amount of points total within the last 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, because New York put up...
They put up 23 against Tampa Bay last week.
Yeah.
This week,
fat 0.
Yeah, so it's not looking good. I am interested to see what Dallas decides to do. As they did get a nice win, comeback win, after they were heavily favorited last week. They didn't end up beating LA, so seeing them against a Seattle team that I think they're probably on par with each other. I don't think there's anybody who's overly I don't think it's top heavy. Well, actually, no, it is top heavy, and then everybody else is just kind of within their own realm.
Like I said, one thing I've always said about being sustained in the league would be the talent level. Mm-hmm. Because this either could go 2 ways. Either players look at this league, this is a good league to showcase. So a lot of players who don't get the opportunities, a lot of younger guys don't get opportunities right away. They could go to the XFL and play, and then that could potentially be better talent, potentially that could be there. Or it's going to be the NFL's poaching everybody, so then you're having to get the lower level talent, and then you come to the play of game is worse.
Right.
So it just depends.
Well, let's go ahead and take another break, and then we're going to get into some NFL topics.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, NFL.com writer Kevin Patra speaks on Mike Tomlin, who has recently released a statement over the weekend supporting Mason Rudolph after the Cleveland Browns defensive end Myles Garret reiterated his claims that the quarterback directed a racial slur at him, which sparked a brawl at the end of the November primetime game. He has been quoted saying, "The most recent one in the past weekend, I took offense to it, to be quite honest with you." Tomlin said, "When it first transpired during the season, we didn't have a lot of time to pause and fight battles of that nature. We said our piece. We completely cooperate with all parties involved, the Cleveland Browns organization and the NFL office. And then we had to move on. We had another game awaiting us and we wanted to be a singularly focused. But when these allegations returned in the past weekend, I thought it was appropriate that Mason is properly defended. It was a thorough investigation done by us and the NFL. These accusations are serious, not only in terms of Mason Rudolph's character, but his professional pursuits. Nobody on the field corroborated what was said by Myles Garret, and that was founded by us and the NFL." So, with that being said, Brice, this is the first bit of Mike Tomlin news that's been speaking to the media a little bit more recently. What do you take on this whole Myles Garret being reinstated and still saying what he said originally about why he, I guess, lashed out on Mason Rudolph?
Well, I think it's just one of those things. He has a story and he's sticking to it. And he truly believes that he was called a very derogatory term. And he reacted as such, obviously. And I feel like that's all you really can do. If you change the story now, he looks weird. He looks like he's uncredible, and he doesn't want that. So I think that's really why. I mean, that's why another reason why also, obviously, Tomlin wasn't happy with ESPN because obviously them breaking up the story in the way they reported it. He really wasn't happy about the way it was displayed. So, I mean, it's one of those things where a lot of people were kind of just very uncomfortable with the situation and don't like how the process has gone. But at the same time, it's like one of those things that just has to happen. And now that Myles Garret is reinstated, I'm sure big storyline behind the first Browns-Steelers game is going to be that. And luckily, Mason Rudolph, we don't know what his future is, but we don't expect him to be starting that game. So it'll definitely be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if there's still even chippiness in that game with Myles Garret and the Pittsburgh players. Because, they're going to remember that. And obviously, we don't want anything bad to happen. We don't want no situation like with what's happening in the MLB with Houston, where players are getting thrown at because of what happened. So as long as everything is handled properly, everybody cooperates, and you basically get past the situation, I think everything will be fine in most regards. And all you can do out there is just continue to do what you do. And I'm sure Pittsburgh first class organization is going to focus on what they need to focus on. They're going to leave it in the past after this dies over again. I'm sure Cleveland, even though we don't look at them as a first-class organization, are trying to get a first-class organization. So, if one of the first steps for them is a new regime in there with Andrew Berry and, trying to get the new coach and everything, it's just creating that culture of moving on from these types of situations and separating yourself from it so then you can produce a better product and a better feel and culture around the entire team and the organization,
I think really what it kind of boils down to is just people have been really, really untrusting of the NFL and how they handle certain things in recent past of this similar matter. And fact of the matter is they don't have, or there was no audio captured during the play. So to speak.
They turned the mics off when the play was going on.
And so there's no record of this or that, and then it's all like word of mouth, player opinion, who was there, who was not. So we don't really know what happened, or they say that they can't get what happened. You know, we can't get the truth, or maybe there never will be a full, solid truth on this whole matter. Maybe that's the best thing, or the NFL thinks that's the best thing to do with this, because if you say Mason didn't say it, maybe at the end of the day that looks too bad on Myles Garret to where it ostracizes him from, the league, paints this picture. And of course, the opposite, which is arguably worse, is that you have a player who has been tied to political things that resemble certain beliefs that a lot of players within, their demographic, that majority makes up the league, which are African Americans, does not look good for you to be having a player, especially a starter at the time, to say things like that towards players that he plays with, his coach is, and it's just not a good look. So maybe this is why they're playing it like this. It's better to leave it up to mystery rather than actually solving it, because sometimes people feel like the truth is better left unsaid in some aspects. And then there's been a lot of people saying that maybe both can be right. Maybe Mason Rudolph didn't say it and somebody else did, and Myles Garret heard whoever else said it and he thought it was Mason Rudolph. And that could have just been the end of it, and maybe just a big misunderstanding, because both of them seem to be very adamant that either one of them is right and the other person is not. So you don't really know. It doesn't seem like we ever will know. I don't think they're going to reopen this investigation anytime soon or anything like that. It just seems like a big old, not a waste of time now. It just seems like a storyline that had to be picked up because they brought him back into the league and let him keep going.
Yeah, that's true.
But speaking of Mike Tomlin and Steelers, he was also brought on First Take a few days ago to talk about Big Ben, because, he was hurt early in the season and the season was over, and now going through rehab, going through day-to-day. He believes that because such a big competitor he is and somebody who's really made a name for himself as a legend, stuff like that, there's just no way, if Big Ben is ready, there's no way he doesn't believe that he'll be the starter or he'll be able to play week 1. So unless there's any setbacks, Mike Tomlin is confident that they'll see him under center. What do you think about that? Because for me, I've been ready for Big Ben to go for a long time as far as retirement.
Retirement. I'm about to say, what do you mean might go? The thing about it is, when he had the 3 Bs, he was putting up numbers. Mm-hmm. And this was the first year where he didn't have Le'Veon or Antonio. And he played one game where he didn't play that great and got injured week 2. So, in a way, we really don't know what Ben looks like right now in terms of what they currently have. And plus, obviously, they see their limitations offensively. I'm sure the Steelers are going to go out there, especially in this deep wide receiver draft. They're probably going to draft another guy or pick up another guy and try to put weapons around Ben, so when he comes back, he can still be that efficient forward of almost 5,000-yard passer, about 30 touchdowns. And, after that, it's just like, oh, yeah, he still can play at a high level. So, because, we're waiting for Ben to fall off the cliff. And there's been times where you feel like he is, and then he has those times where he's like he isn't. And
the past 2 seasons, he's been he'll start off really rough for the first 4 weeks, and then he'll catch fire. Just like Tom Brady. He won't start as rough, but Tom has had moments where it's like, oof.
I think it's just when you're older, too, you're just trying to get into it. Because remember, they don't also play any type of preseason snaps, so they're getting their first live action, really, regular season first day. So they're still trying to, get used to And I think that was one of the reasons why people don't underrate, like, when you have a lot of new weapons, but then the quarterbacks are older and you don't play them during the preseason. Well, outside of training camp reps, they don't really get any reps with these guys. And then you're waiting during the season to, like, do that. But luckily, they're so good as a team, usually, that they can afford to do that because they're going to still be in it. Or if they're out of it, Pittsburgh has shown they can get back in it. So, and especially I think with Pittsburgh knowing how good their defense is, especially if they get the guys back they need, they'll probably be a top 10 defense in this league. And so if the offense doesn't start off firing out the gates, it's okay because you know you're going to be in the game and you feel like you still have a better chance in these games than you do with Mason Rudolph or Duck. So,
That's for sure.
So it really just depends. But nobody ever wants injuries, but I always feel like injuries are a good thing because it shows you what you have. And so you know what changes you need to make. They know we might need a new backup quarterback because if Ben goes down again, we've seen what these two can do and it's not good. So that's probably something they're definitely going to look into too.
Maybe it's time to give Landry Jones another call.
Oh boy, Pittsburgh fans do not like that man. So I highly doubt they're going to be like, bring this man in. Now, if they really want to get bold, they can bring in Colin.
No one's bringing in Colin, man. It's just,
and Ben went down for this season. If Ben's Colin, I want to reach 10 mil.
Every season as it gets longer and longer from him being in the league,
I know.
The more unrealistic it gets, man. If
they really bold, they'll get Cardell.
No, yeah, okay.
Yay! Now, don't be shocked now. Gotta go be out there, XFL MVP. Like, you know what? Let's bring him in here.
It's not gonna look pretty. It wouldn't be my team. I'd be happy for it.
Hey, don't forget, you could have Taysom Hill starting as your quarterback within 2 years. So we'll have to see how that goes.
2 years, maybe a year. We still haven't heard anything.
Hey, if Brice retires, gonna be this year. I know it's something you don't look forward to. I understand.
Let's take another break, and then we'll get into some Cleveland news.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, so Brice, what do you got for us as far as some news articles that may be going under the radar?
Yeah, man, we got some news coming out of the league. Obviously, we're in the off season, so a lot of things can leak, a lot of things can go out. Obviously, free agency's in about a month, actually a few weeks away. And everybody's preparing for the NFL draft. So obviously, teams are trying to make some plays, they're trying to see interest in certain players, maybe try to put some teams on the trade market. One team that's trying to do that is the Detroit Lions. They're shopping and looking around for potential trade partners for big play Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton has been their number one corner for years, and he's been considered one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. So, and I guess any team that needs a solid quality starting corner should probably look towards Detroit and try to maybe make a deal with him. I don't think they're over here asking for anything crazy, but I think what you do usually with players like that, you try to test and see what people are offering, and then you come to the conclusion, okay, what do we want? Mm-hmm. So, and if they find an offer that's just too good to pass up, then they'll obviously make the deal. But, obviously Darius Slay, he's in his 30s now, but he's still a pretty good corner, I would think. I mean, he got big play Slay for a reason. So I feel like, any team that needs a cornerback definitely could look in his direction. Obviously Dallas, potentially if they lose Byron Jones, could make that trade. Philadelphia obviously needs corners. So that's another team that could be potentially in the mix, looking for people who that could help in the back end. It just honestly depends what really happens. I could see potentially the Saints if they don't retain Janoris Jenkins. And obviously, since a lot of people are not a fan of Eli Apple going after big play Slay, it just really depends on just what the team needs and whatever you need out there. But I think he'll have a market. I think people will call definitely and see if people want him. Well, what do you think about Darius Slay? You think he's gonna have a market, or you think he's gonna be pretty slow? Or?
I don't think. I think there'll be offers. I just don't think the offers will be. I don't know what the offer is for a guy in his 30s. I think probably like maybe a third rounder.
I mean, I can see that. I can see that.
No one's trading the first round for that guy.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen. It's not Madden where you can kind of, where people always ask for a first round guy if he's a really talented player, but
unless you do a trade override,
right? But in reality, he's probably going to be maybe a third and a fourth or something like that, or like a player, or to match salaries or stuff like that. But to be honest, what can you really? I don't even know why. Unless they're trying to save money for something or they're trying to get somebody in free agency. But the Lions had a season pretty much derailed through the injury. And I don't think they're that bad of a team as they displayed last season just because they didn't have everybody, ready to go.
Went down week 5? Week 6?
Mm-hmm. And they were...
they were 2-0-1.
Yeah.
Or 3-0-1. And then that's when they had... They obviously got screwed in the Monday night game, and then there was another game where they got finessed too, and then their season just went downhill, and they didn't win another game for the rest of the year.
Kerryon Johnson went down.
Yeah, a lot of injuries. Yeah, and obviously that's
you still got talent. Marvin Jones.
They have
shows up every now and again.
Kenny Galladay, he's not a bad receiver. They have guys. It's just not coming together for Matt Patricia right now.
Right, and maybe it's because of Matt Patricia more than, the talent around them. Because I feel like this Lions team is about as talented as they have been in years since maybe the Calvin era. And even then, you can argue that they weren't even that grossly talented. There's just Calvin Johnson was so good. But that's I don't know. I think Darius Slay, they're better off keeping him rather than getting rid of him. Because what more, their defense wasn't like astronomically horrible to the point to where it's time to blow it up. It's hard for me to think of NFL teams just saying, it's time to blow it up. There's too many people on roster. There's just too much talent that, NFL can be a big parity league. They don't, it's not always, as top heavy as it can be. And I think the Lions they can get a playoff spot if they come out strong and finish strong. It's just they always find a way to either not finish strong in the past few seasons rather than, keeping the momentum and stuff like that.
Yeah, but also that brings me to another question with Detroit. There's been rumors that they might move off of Matthew Stafford. Would you make that move?
They move off, so they're just gonna tank? I mean, that's it? They're calling.
I mean, they might be trying to. I mean, Matthew Stafford, since he is by standards an NFL starting quarterback, you're going to get good value for him because he can start for you. It's just what would their plan be? Could they then put themselves in the Tom Brady sweepstakes? Could they then maybe try to get one of these quarterbacks out in the market? Could they potentially trade up and get a rookie quarterback? I mean, it's one of those types of things because obviously Matthew Stafford has had a lot of injury history in the league, and maybe they feel like with what they don't know if they can depend on him, and they're just kind of like, I don't know if we should keep him. I mean, I don't think it's anything where it's like they're going to aggressively trade him, but it's like you're kind of like, okay, it's like kind of like Darius. Let's fill out let's see what the market is. Is somebody willing to cough up something for him? But I don't think they're going to sit here and say we got to get rid of Matthew because at the end of the day, they know the position they'd be in.
Well, I mean, they just paid him not too long ago, like super contract. I don't know if anybody can bring that in right now who would be willing to trade for him. And this isn't like, Andy Dalton is on the trade block. Now Matthew Stafford is being shopped around. We understand why Andy Dalton's on the trade block because we can assume that the Bengals are gonna take a number 1 overall pick as a quarterback. Whoever that is gonna be the starter. That's just who it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And they don't want any quarterback controversy. They know who's gonna be their guy whenever they draft him.
Yeah, definitely.
The Lions, seemingly found their guy in Matthew Stafford, and I don't know what the deal is now, but are you so sure that the guys they put out there during Matthew Stafford's injury period are going to be the ones to hold them over? Or maybe that's what they're thinking because they didn't, they weren't totally out of games. They weren't getting beat. This wasn't like when Peyton Manning left and folks had the, tank for luck signs out there. It didn't look like that.
Because it really showed you how much that team depended on Peyton. They really weren't that talented in general.
So maybe they have a point, but at the same time, like, it's the NFL. You can't just trade your quarterback, like a franchise guy like that, and expect it to work out for you. If you really think about it, when has there ever been a guy as good as Matthew Stafford has been, and it's like, yeah, let's just trade him. Let's just pack it in.
Some people, I mean, obviously this is with younger guys, but some people feel like why don't teams, even though it's a risk. Like, let's say, you always have quarterbacks who come into the league, you draft them, right? Mm-hmm. And then, 3-4 years into their deal, it's like they're good, but they're not great. Like, they're not elite, but they're good. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and then so there's this debate, do you want to pay them elite quarterback money just for being a good quarterback? Right. And so the debate was just, why doesn't the team just take that chance and let him walk? Because they don't want to pay him, and then he never ends up being what they potentially need or think he could be, and just restart and get another quarterback and see if he can be better than what you just had. I mean, it's an interesting idea. It's just very risky. That's a job firing risk. That's why nobody takes it. But
well, I mean, it seems like the Lions up there are not worried about job security because I think everybody's on the hot seat if they're looking to trade Darius Slay. And
you're looking to make moves,
right? Like Matt Patricia might be out the window soon.
Yeah, if he has a bad start, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets fired over during the season.
Right. He might end up being back there in New England land.
He'll be like, "I'm coming back with no Brady. Oh, I gotta do everything. I gotta coach this defense up." But I
don't know, man. I'd like to see them run it back one more time before we get into the trade talks of somebody you just recently paid a lot of money to.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like a Blake Griffin scenario. Remember when Blake Griffin basically was like, I want to be a LA Clipper for the rest of my life. And then after he signed the contract, they're just like, yeah, you're going to Detroit.
They had the whole offseason. They did the little thing at the Staples Center.
Yeah.
And then he signed
him off.
Like before the trade deadline, yeah, we're trading you to Detroit. It's like, wow, y'all fake.
That was insane. Why does it seem like everybody who is just like essentially damaged goods just gets shipped to Detroit? That's so. Once a very, 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 very famous basketball city has just been so middling in the past.
It's just so
10 years.
Middle, man. It's so middle.
And it's borderline below the average.
Yeah. It's
like,
just
Reggie Jackson's been playing there for almost 20 years. It feels like
it really does. It feels like Reggie Jackson played there forever.
Reggie Jackson.
Oh man, I remember their best year was when I think it was the first year that Stan Van Gundy got there. Was it Stan, right? It's not Jeff because Jeff is the one in the booth.
Yeah, Stan got there,
and then they made the playoffs. It took LeBron to. Didn't they take him to
5? I think 5
but
games.
But like it was weird. It was weird because every game it was so close. And Stanley Johnson looked like he had potential, and now look at him.
And then that was the KCP years.
Oh, yes, sir. The KCP years.
That's when people thought he could be something. Now he's just a mild contributor to a potential finals contender.
Hey, sometimes you're better off just being a mild contributor than get that ring.
Hey.
Especially since, Boogie will come back, but
Hey, but this is not a basketball. But let's take a break and then we'll get into some division breakdowns.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, so looking at some divisions like we did last week, we're moving on to another AFC division, as in the AFC North. So winners of the AFC North last year, of course, was the Baltimore Ravens, who had really big playoff aspirations. The whole Lamar craze went down. And then they lost to Derrick Henry. And then, of course, we know Cleveland was a big disappointment for a lot of people. Cincinnati was Cincinnati, and now Cincinnati will be Joe Burrow, supposedly, or maybe Tua. We don't know. People have flip-flopped, saying who they should pick, but most people are pretty sure that Joe Burrow will be the first overall pick. And, of course, Pittsburgh with their, trying to, I guess, resurge and have potential playoff hopes this year as they did last year, only to be derailed by their quarterback going down with a really, really pretty bad injury. Mm-hmm. Where do you see this division, man? Who is, I guess the obvious team to look at is the Ravens to repeat as being division champs, right? Mm-hmm. But then it's hard to not look at Cleveland and think if they can just figure it out.
Yeah, because Cleveland. I mean, would it be safe to say Cleveland has the second most talent in the division in terms of a roster?
Roster, yeah, okay. Their talent by far.
Yeah, so I mean,
or talent potential, I should say, because some people are arguing that Baker Mayfield he's not that talented, and
we'll have to see what happens in that regard. But I think it just depends really. Obviously, a lot of people think Pittsburgh's going to be better next year just when Ben comes back. Just because if their defense plays the way they did, you really only have to score like maybe 21 points, and that's enough for you to win games. And you would think Ben Bond in that offense could give you at least 3 touchdowns. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, sometimes they have a down year, but they always bounce back. And that's what makes them such a great organization. And Mike Tomlin, he still has a job because of it, because he's always able to. He's not one of those guys where it's like you have a bad year and you have another bad year, where the team's just like getting worse. It's like bad year, or even when they have a bad year, it's not even a bad year. It's like they're mediocre, like 8-8, 7-9, 9-7. So really, it's not even like, oh, we were terrible. But obviously, standards in Pittsburgh are higher, so they expect to be good every year.
Well, I mean, didn't they make the playoffs like 10 straight years in a row or something like that? Or like he's made the playoffs 10 years as a coach there?
Yeah, I think 10 years since he's been here, he has made it. They have missed a couple. But obviously, when that's happened, obviously, they haven't made it for the last 2 years. Obviously, we know what happened 2 years ago with the 9-6-1 season. And then obviously, last year, we saw how that went. So, but he has a job because there's different things that go into it. And also, this year I think they have a chance. I mean, obviously from Baltimore's perspective, Lamar Jackson is one of the guys that who you expect to get even better than he was last year. I think his MVP year. And if he does and he improves his passing, Baltimore, you feel like will be right back in it. They'll have a chance to be just as good because, they seem like they have a great culture. They've always had a great organization, great structure, and great coaching. And I think that's if they continue on that upward trajectory and they sign some guys they need back, I think they have all the reason in the world to still be a top team in the AFC. But like I said, obviously in terms of playoff success, it will depend on the Mr. Jackson and his development as a passer, in the league. So And, maybe slightly upgrading the wide receiver position. Because they got 3 tight ends, but you could always improve the wide receiver position potentially.
Yeah, if they can get like a true number 1 wide receiver, that team could dynamically change again, right?
Yeah, they have some guys, obviously. Willie Snead's not bad. Marquise Brown, he was hurt a lot of the year, but he showed playmaking potential. They I think Roberts was on that team too. They have guys. It's like basically 49ers. They don't have Emmanuel Sanders is good, but you don't really think of Emmanuel Sanders like a number 1 game-changing wide receiver, and that's what I think any offense would want. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if Baltimore had Julio.
That's not happening.
But I'm just saying, just in retrospect,
it would break the NFL. Who would they guard?
I was like, well, we can try to stop Lamar, but Julio just gonna roast your corners. So that's why that situation is pretty much, I think, the most, for what we see, the most solidified. Cleveland obviously is the big enigma in the situation. You don't know what you're getting this year. Obviously, under the new head coach, you really don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, like I said, the Browns have good talent positions. If they keep Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, that's one of the best running back duos in the league. If Odell plays better and Jarvis Landry plays better and, everything works out, they have one of their wide receiving cores in the league. David Njoku is not a bad tight end. They have to improve the offensive line. They cannot pass block. They got to get that solidified. They can block for Baker. That's definitely going to help him. Then on top of that, defensively, Myles Garrett's coming back. He hasn't been the superstar. He kind of reminds me of Jadeveon Clowney, where you thought coming out of college he'd be this superstar.
Right.
But he's just a star. And I feel like that's what he kind of is. He's clearly the best defensive lineman, but he's not like game breaker, I guess, like a Joey Bosa or something.
It takes time for these guys to develop. I think the Bosa brothers are just superhuman freaks.
That's true. But I think, and they have talent at every position. They have a very good linebacker. They have some guys in the secondary that can play. It just depends on coaching. If they get that good coaching and they get their fundamentals down and they stop beating themselves and shooting themselves in the foot with turnovers and just toxic culture, then I think Cleveland has the potential to be good. Like I feel like Pittsburgh, since you don't know what you're going to get offensively, and sometimes even though you had a great defensive performance previous year, sometimes your defense just won't be the exact same it was. And that's why it's hard to be consistent in this league is, you could be a great defense and they could still be a great defense, but they may not be that great of a defense.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, remember when the Vikings made that run in 2017, like it was 2018 to the NFC Championship game? Or 2017? Or 2018?
Pittsburgh?
No, Minnesota. With Case Keenum. They didn't make the Super Bowl.
17.
Yeah, but their defense that year was like top 5.
Mm-hmm.
The next year it was top 10, but you could also tell it wasn't the exact same type of defense that it was previously. And that's what I mean from Pittsburgh's perspective. Like, they may not be like that. And then you don't know what you're getting offensively. Obviously, you think you're going to get better, but is it going to be good enough?
Mm-hmm. Well, the low-scoring games were most likely because of the defense, and also their offense had to change because they couldn't throw the football down the field. So it was no longer a dynamic, 500-yard passing yard offense.
Everybody was getting hurt too. Juju, James Conner.
Right.
Everybody was in and out of the line.
So in reality, they were just running the football because they couldn't risk Duck Hodges, Duck Hodges or Mason Rudolph throwing it because it did not always turn out to be well.
Yeah, that's true.
So when you look at it from that perspective, you really don't know what their season could have been or what it can be next year because their offense is going to prompt other defenses to playing in a different style. And it's going to be less burning the clock as much as you think it would be, unless they decide to say it's time to put a big ban on the retirement ice and run it that way. So it just kind of depends like that. I'm really interested to see what Cincinnati is going to do because, of course, I don't think they're going to re-sign AJ Green. I just don't. I would like to see them do it only because I would like to see AJ Green stay with one team. And I have fears that he will join Baltimore and it's going to get grimy out there.
I think that they'll definitely be in the market. AJ will have a market.
AJ definitely will have a market. I don't know if Amari Cooper would leave Dallas. I'm pretty sure they can pay him the most.
I wouldn't be surprised if Amari left.
Right.
Then not Philadelphia, but Dallas turns around, picks up AJ.
And then,
they bring back Des Bryant.
Somebody who could be really interesting to look at is Robbie Anderson. I think he's an underrated guy.
Deep threat, can make a play, a little bit speedy.
I like to see him he's a bigger name, and I like to, that's what I would target if I was Baltimore. I don't know how much money he's looking for, but if he's in the right, the tax bracket, so to speak, in the right percentile, he's already fast. Like, that's what Baltimore has built their team off of. If he can get out there and get it done, man. But I think really everybody's going to be watching Joe Burrow play, because let's just face it, that's who everybody assumes he's going to be playing for. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be locked into him. Lamar is going to be focused on quite a bit for his, his sophomore debut, because really this was his rookie season, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, he did come in his first, the last 8 games of his rookie season, but this was his first full season as a quarterback, so year 3, but really it's going to feel more like year 2. Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh. We don't really, we know exactly how they like to operate. We know their defense is going to be good, or projected to be good. We know they have talent across the board, and it's just depending on what they do and how good Roethlisberger is when he comes back. And then I guess the question mark, like all the other times, is Cleveland, because now you have all this talent and you have this this window that you created for yourself, because until last season, nobody was saying, oh yeah, Cleveland, they got the playoff hopes. It was more just like, Cleveland could be this could be a good growth period for Cleveland. And they went and got all these players, and now they're talking about playoffs and offensive juggernaut stuff and all this. And then it went all up in flames, and now we're saying, oh, Cleveland, what can they do to fix this? I don't know what they can do to fix it, because we just have to wait and see if their offense can really get it going. We just have to wait and see if their head coach, newly hired, can really bring some stuff in changed. But with that being said, let's take our final break, and then we're going to do some rankings of quarterbacks in the NFL. Brice, how about that?
All right, yes.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
All right, so the last segment, just do a little bit of fun, because we like to rank stuff, and rankings are always fun because, they build up controversy. It gets people talking about certain things, and honestly, they're just generally really fun to make. So, of course, I would like to do quarterbacks, because more and more the league has seemed to have become extremely, it's always been quarterback dependent, but now you're seeing the real difference between quarterbacks who are in the elite category and those who can just kind of get you by. Mm-hmm. And some of our quarterbacks that were in the elites are starting to slip down the cracks, so to speak, or get down below what they used to be, as, age are a big factor and things like that. So let's do a top 5, right? So I think it's hard, but I think it's still doable. But the first 3 off the bat, I think, are pretty. I think most people say the similar things. I think Patrick Mahomes should be.
Are we doing this in order, or are we just saying top?
Oh, no, it has to be in order at this point.
Okay.
Well, at least for me, it could. If you don't want to do an order.
I was just asking. I didn't know if you wanted an order.
No, I was thinking about doing a 1 through 5 in order.
Okay, I could probably do that.
So I think number 1 for me is, of course, Mahomes. Because even though Lamar got all the hype, Mahomes was arguably always seen as the best quarterback. And we knew, if he was healthy and, the team was good, he is the best quarterback in the NFL. He was last year, And in reality, he was still the best this year. Just a lot of things went wonky for the Chiefs. And it didn't matter then because they ended up winning the Super Bowl. It's weird to say. I forget that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Either one of them, if they would have won, I feel like it felt so long ago. It was only a month ago that they won. Not even a month ago. It was like a few weeks ago. So that's just, Mahomes is the best. And that's just kind of the end all be all of it. Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, definitely. I'll go to him. He's my number one quarterback too.
Okay.
He's just, first of all, he is Mahomes. And second, I've been a fan of him since Texas Tech.
Oh my God.
So, y'all think I don't be noticing, but I knew this man was the GOAT back at Texas Tech. It's just he was on Texas Tech. That's why he wasn't, you know what I'm saying? But I knew he always had the talent. So when they traded for him and they got him, the Kansas City got him with the weapons they have, it fit perfectly. And that's why he is an elite quarterback. And, won MVP in the Super Bowl in his first 2 real years of starting. And, he's living his best life. And Kansas City looks like they're going to be here to stay as long as Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback.
All right. Number 2. This is where things get a little bit, it's not gray area. I think this is more of a solid pick and most people would agree. I think Russell Wilson is the second best quarterback in the league, and it's kind of not even close because he's closer to Patrick Mahomes than he is to the third guy because he probably was the second best quarterback in the playoffs behind Patrick Mahomes.
Definitely. And yeah, that's why he was in the MVP discussion too this year.
He's been in the MVP discussion really since the Legion of Boom was disassembled. And he's been carrying that team offensively for almost 4 years. It's kind of insane, but Russell Wilson is that good, and it's hard to imagine it because you're so used to thinking of Seattle as, they're just defense and run the football. Yeah. No, Russell Wilson has been slinging the football around for years and essentially running for his life at the same time.
Oh, yeah. But he never takes a lot of hits. That's why he's always healthy.
Yeah, I remember he took that one real bad, he had that real bad knee thing, and people thought he was done. And when he was just like, it's just a knee sprain. Then he came back. I remember seeing, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the end. Russell Wilson's done, but he ended up being okay. But yeah, I think I have him number 2.
He's my number 2 guy too.
All right, this is where things start to get a little bit choppy. Okay, so number 3. I would have to think it's between Lamar and Deshaun because Deshaun had kind of an up and down year this year.
I mean, yeah, the Houston's up and down as a team. Horrible coaching, but anyway. They have up and down coaching.
The O'Brien. I mean,
I'm going with Lamar third.
You're going with Lamar? Okay. I'm going to go with, I think Deshaun. He's just done it for longer, and
he is our Michael Jordan.
I feel like he is his passing game is more developed than Lamar's for sure. It's just they have a little bit of a different skill set, but they both impact the game in similar ways. To where, Deshaun kind of has this magic to him that kind of but it's the winner magic. That's why people call him the Michael Jordan of football.
Yeah,
where it's just
if
the
you give him a
competitiveness.
chance late, Deshaun gonna pull some Houdini stuff out there.
I think we need to start changing it. I don't think it's the Michael Jordan. I think it's the Dame Lillard effect because that seems more modern and also less disrespectful to Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I think it's just because Jordan in these games when they clutch, he always pulls it out, and I think that's why. Because it just feels like every time a clutch situation arises, Deshaun wants to make some crazy play to win the game. Let's not forget against Oakland when he got kicked in the eye and still scored the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's stuff like that. It's just nobody's ever done that before. Buffalo, when he got sandwiched by 2 defenders, spinned out and scores the game-winning. Actually, he didn't the game-winning touchdown, I don't think, but he got the game play that set them up. And things like that. And he's just been, and obviously we all remember what happened against Alabama, how he beat Alabama in the final seconds of the national championship game. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why he has that reputation. Obviously, that's from Dabo Sweeney, boosting his man up. But
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, Lamar's number 3. I just feel like, I feel like his skill set is one one of the best in the league. I mean, he won MVP, so I feel like when you win MVP, I feel like you automatically are a top 3.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because
it's
kind of
fair.
Yeah, because it'd be weird if like, let's say like, I mean, because think about it. When Matt Ryan won MVP, he was a top 5 quarterback that year. You would have to put him in the top 5 because he had a top 5 year.
No, yeah, Lamar's in the top 5. It's just either 3 or 4.
Yeah,
I'm thinking he's more 4 than 3.
But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go with 3. But then number 4 would be Deshaun in my opinion because Deshaun is a very special talent. Very special talent. You know, come from Georgia, A-Town, you know what I'm saying? So.
All right, so let's go. Since I guess technically we did 3 and 4, we can do another. We can do kind of one before we get to 5. Or we can do like a 5 and then a fringe guy. So let's do 5 and then do a fringe guy.
Okay.
Okay, 5th on my list after Mahomes, Russell Wilson. I have Deshaun. You have Lamar. I have Lamar as 4th. You have Deshaun as 4th. 5th guy. This is the tough one because you can kind of just dump anybody in there at any time and kind of make it seem okay. So,
Ryan Tannehill.
No. No. Man, it's tough. There's something inside of me that makes me think, Dak had a good year, but I don't know if I think he's my friend's guy.
I honestly would go probably with Drew 5.
Drew Brees? See, I didn't want to say that, man, because just like, if I put Drew there, then you got to say maybe A-Rod, but then Aaron Rodgers is probably a fringe guy. Like, it's really like flip-flops depending on who you look at it.
I go with Drew as my number 5 quarterback. I mean, if you want to, you can still go with Brady, on the fringe.
Oh, no, I can't do. I know Brady's top 10 for me, but he's not top 5. I know, I think really though, I think I might go with Dak for 5. And then I think
hold on a second. My fringe guy is Carson Wentz, but continue.
That's what I was going to say. My next guy would have been Carson just because it started off real rough but he was able to really bring that team back together near the second half of the season.
With no talent.
Essentially, with less talent than he started off with. And we all know that the talent he possesses to be as a quarterback. I think he learned a lot this season and he'll come back even better. And he'll look really good. And I think that, I think Carson Wentz will show a lot of people up. I think he's one of those guys when we get to talking about the NFC East eventually, the Eagles really have a chance to make some noise in the playoffs next year. So I'm interested in him.
Do you have, Josh Allen in your top 10?
He might be fringe, but I wouldn't really, I don't think so from throwing talent. I think that is more of a team's team up there in Buffalo. Buffalo is my AFC team that you like to root for as choice. I adopted them underneath.
Bills Mafia, I see.
But, no, I think there's probably 5 more quarterbacks that are better than him on any given Sunday. But, and then I think one more fringe guy, I'm just going to throw him out there. Maybe, I guess Drew Brees. We probably should do a top 10 next week. Huh? Let's do a top 10 next week.
What?
Quarterbacks.
Well, we already mentioned our top 5 plus fringe. So they go the first 5, 6 selections. It's really the last, unless you want to do a continuation. Our 6 through 10.
Yeah, we can just keep ranking off quarterbacks. Right. Because there's something I need to talk about with Matt Ryan.
What did Matt? He didn't even do anything.
We'll save it for next week. All right, so that'll be the end of the GSMC football podcast. I'd like to thank you for listening and keeping us on your radar. Don't forget to review us on whatever platform you did choose to listen to this podcast this week. And don't forget to follow us on our social media. That's our Instagram, Facebook, and our Twitter feed. Thank you, and keep it locked in for next week as me and Brice will be going over a whole bunch of different stuff, general news, XFL, more division breakdowns, and of course now recently added quarterback rankings through the league. Exciting stuff here, man.
We're going to break it down all the way to 32.
Yeah, might as well.
Oh boy. I really like guy Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's number 30, but he's a guy.
All right, man. Y'all have a good one.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.